We all know about our solar system, and we know that at the center is our star. Our star is only on the first stage of its massive life cycle. Today, we will tell you about these steps and guide you through the life of our star. First off, there are two terms that you will need to know before we start. The first one is main sequence. A main sequence star is any star that is fusing hydrogen at its core. These stars also need a stable amount of outward and inward pressure. The second one is very easy to explain. These stars are referred as dwarf stars. A dwarf star is a main sequence star. It's just a different name for it. Now, let's begin. First, we'll start with our star. Our star is also known as a yellow dwarf star or a Class G dwarf star. These stars are formed by the contraction of nebula gas and dust under the effects of gravity. If the star has enough heat, it'll start a cycle of nuclear reactions at the center. This will form a yellow dwarf star. Our star is nothing special. The surface temperatures of these stars are only around 5,000 to 5,700 Celsius. Our star is an average size. Some stars can reach up to 100 times bigger than ours. Overall, our star is nothing special. But compared to us, these stars live a long life. On average, these stars last around 10 billion years. But sadly, our star will eventually move on to the next stage. The next stage of our star is the red giant. Red giant stars are formed when a star doesn't have enough hydrogen to burn. Gravity will cause the star's core to become smaller and hotter. This will cause the star's outer layer to expand, engulfing the inner planets. This will possibly include the Earth. These stars can reach up to 1 million to 1 billion kilometers in diameter. Although these stars are big, these stars are rather cold compared to others, with temperatures only reaching 4,750 Celsius and below. The red giant will lose its outer layers over time and eventually create a fluorescent nebula. What is left of the star will shrink down into a dense white dwarf star. Or, if the red giant has enough mass, it is possible that it'll turn into a black hole. We're going to talk about what will happen to our star. Since our star won't have enough mass to turn into a black hole, it'll turn to a white dwarf star. White dwarf stars are the remains of a red giant. These stars are extremely dense and extremely hot at the start of its life. The surface temperature can reach up to 100,000 degrees Celsius. Over time, the white dwarf will cool down, and eventually it'll cool down to 0 degrees Celsius. Once a white dwarf cools down to 0 degrees, it is predicted that there will be no heat or light given off by the star. This is what is known as a black dwarf star. We don't exactly know if these truly exist, but even if it is possible, there will be none in the current universe. This is because the universe is only 13.8 billion years old. This means that the universe hasn't been around long enough to create a black dwarf. Even though we have all this information, there is no possible way that we could prove that our universe, or even us, are real. Our entire lives could just be a simulation of reality. It's just how we perceive the world, and perception is only up to you.